The Galactic Council had existed for 3,000 years. In that time, they had found and studied every intelligent species in the known universe. They had maps of every star system. They had records of every planet with life. They believed they knew everything there was to know. They were wrong. Ambassador Telos was a tall creature with silver skin and 4 arms. He belonged to the Collective, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. For 200 years, he had been the one who made first contact with new species. He had done this job 600 times. He thought he had seen everything. On a normal day in what humans called the year 2024, his ship's sensors detected something strange. A small blue planet orbiting a yellow star in a quiet corner of the galaxy was sending out radio signals. Not natural signals. These were made by intelligent beings. Telos was confused. This sector had been marked as empty for centuries. How had they missed an entire civilization? He brought his ship closer and listened to the signals. He heard music. He heard voices speaking in hundreds of different languages. He heard something called television and something else called internet. These beings had technology, not advanced technology by galactic standards, but real technology. They had built machines and cities and weapons. They had even sent small robots to other planets in their system. Telos immediately sent a message to the Galactic Council. "I have found a new species," he reported. "They call themselves humans. They live on a planet called Earth. Request permission to make first contact." The Council was shocked. A new species. After 3,000 years of believing they had found everyone, this was unprecedented. They gave Telos permission to proceed. His ship was 12 kilometers long. It was designed to impress and intimidate new species. When it descended through Earth's atmosphere, it blocked out the sun over a large city called Sol. On the ground, humans reacted in many different ways. Some ran in fear. Some fell to their knees and prayed. Some took out their phones and started recording videos. News channels interrupted their regular programs. Governments around the world went to high alert. But in a military building in Seoul, a woman named Park simply looked at her screen and sighed. Was 34 years old. She was a captain in the Korean Space Defense Agency, a small department that most people thought was a waste of money. After all, there were no aliens, right? Her job was mostly paperwork and watching empty screens. Until today. "Captain," said Lieutenant, a young man with nervous eyes. "There is a very large ship over the city. What do we do?" Looked at the massive shadow covering Seoul through her window. She looked back at her half-finished bowl of kimchi stew. She had been looking forward to this lunch all morning. "Tell them to take a number," she said calmly. "We are in the middle of lunch." Stared at her. "Captain, with respect, there is an alien spaceship the size of a small city floating above us." "I can see that," said, "but my stew is getting cold. They waited 3,000 years to find us. They can wait 20 more minutes." She was not being rude. She was being practical. If these aliens wanted to destroy them, 20 minutes would not matter. If they wanted to talk, they could wait. Either way was going to finish her lunch. Sent the message, not really believing what he was doing. "Earth vessel to unknown craft. Please hold. Your transmission is important to us." On his ship, Ambassador Telos received this message. His translator took a moment to process it. When he understood what the humans had said, he did not know how to react. In 600 first contact events across hundreds of species, not once had anyone told him to wait. New species usually reacted with fear or awe or sometimes aggression. They never told him to hold because they were eating lunch. Telos waited. His crew watched him confused. 20 minutes passed. Finally, the human transmission came through. The screen showed a woman with short black hair sitting calmly at a desk. She was holding a spoon, and there was a bit of red sauce on her lip. "This is Captain Park of the Korean Space Defense Agency," she said. "I represent the planet Earth. Who are you and what do you want?" Telos had practiced his first contact speech many times. It was a beautiful speech, full of grand words about the glory of the Galactic Council, the wonders of shared technology, and the bright future of cooperation between species. He began to speak. He talked about the 942 civilizations that made up the Council. He talked about the peace and prosperity that came from joining. He talked about the technology they could share, faster than light travel, medical advances, communication systems that could reach across the galaxy. Listened, she did not interrupt. She did not gasp in amazement. She did not fall to her knees in gratitude. She simply listened, occasionally taking another bite of her stew. When Telos finished, she nodded slowly. Then she asked one simple question. "What took you so long?" Telos blinked all four of his eyes. "I am sorry." "You say you have been exploring the galaxy for 3,000 years, said. "We have been here for about 200,000 years. We have been sending radio signals for over a century. What took you so long to find us?" Telos did not have an answer. He had never been asked this question before. Continued. "Also, you mentioned technology sharing. That sounds nice. What do you have that we might want? And what do you want from us in return?" She was negotiating. On her first day of knowing aliens existed, this human woman was already negotiating trade deals. Telos felt something he had not felt in 200 years of doing this job. He felt surprised. The transmission was broadcast to every member world of the Galactic Council. This was standard procedure for first contact events. It meant that 17 billion sentient beings across the galaxy watched Captain Park shrug at the concept of galactic civilization and ask if they had anything useful to trade. On the Council home world, the chamber fell silent. "Did she just negotiate with us?" asked Delegate of the Peaceful Shells, a species that lived inside beautiful spiral shells. "I believe she did," said High Observer Myra of the Dominion. "She is treating first contact like a business meeting." "Most new species cry at this point," said, "or run, or try to attack. She is eating soup." "Stew," Myra corrected. "It appears to be some kind of fermented vegetable stew. Our sensors indicate it is extremely spicy, dangerously spicy, actually." They watched as finished her meal, wiped her mouth, and asked Telos for a written proposal that she could share with Earth's governments. "We have many countries here," she explained. "Many leaders. This is not something I can decide alone. Send us your offer. We will discuss it. We will get back to you." Telos sent the proposal. He then asked if he could land and meet with Earth's leaders in person. "Thought about it. Where would you like to land?" "Somewhere central," Telos said. "Somewhere important." Smiled slightly. "I will see what I can arrange. In the meantime, please stay in orbit, and please do not frighten our population. Many of them are not as calm as I am." She ended the transmission. The council chamber remained silent for a long time. Finally, the eldest member, a being so old that nobody remembered what species he originally came from, spoke. "In 3,000 years," he said slowly, "we have never encountered a species like this." "What do you mean?" asked Delegate. The elder looked at the frozen image of Captain Park on the screen. A human woman with sauce on her lip, completely unafraid of the most powerful civilization in the galaxy. "I mean," the elder said, "that for the first time in 3,000 years, I do not know what will happen next. The galaxy had found Earth, and the galaxy did not know what to do about it. Galactic protocol was very clear about new species. Before any civilization could join the Council, they had to be assessed. A team of experts would visit the new planet, study its people, and write a report. This process usually took about 1 standard year. The Council sent their best team, 12 senior analysts, each an expert in their field. They were led by High Observer Myra of the Dominion, a species known for their intelligence and careful thinking. Myra had assessed 200 species in her career. She had never failed to understand one. The team landed in Seoul 3 days after first contact. They expected to find primitives, simple creatures who had barely discovered electricity. They planned to spend their time teaching these humans the basics of galactic civilization. They were very, very wrong. Doctor was waiting for them at the landing site. She was 41 years old, small in height but large in presence. She was the chief physicist at Seoul National University and one of the humans alive. She had spent the last 3 days preparing. "Welcome to Earth," she said as the aliens stepped off their ship. "I have prepared a presentation for you. Please follow me." Myra looked at her team. In 200 assessments, she had never been greeted with a presentation. Usually, new species greeted them with gifts or songs or sometimes weapons, never with a presentation. They followed Doctor to a large conference room. Coffee was waiting for them, along with small snacks. A large screen displayed the title of the presentation, Theoretical Faster-Than-Light Travel, a Human Perspective. "Please sit," Doctor said. "The coffee is strong, but I am told it is an acquired taste." The analysts sat. One of them, a being with 17 eyes, tried the coffee. He immediately spit it out. "This liquid is toxic," he said. "Only slightly," Doctor agreed. "We drink it every day. It helps us think faster." She began her presentation. For the next 2 hours, Doctor explained everything humans had learned about physics, space travel, and faster-than-light theory. She showed equations that made 3 of the analysts physically sick. She explained concepts that the Council had taken centuries to discover. She presented ideas that even the Council had not yet considered. "We have had the math for decades," she said, pointing to a complex equation. "We understand the theory, we just do not have the power source. I assume you do." High Observer Myra stood up slowly. "Doctor, are you telling me that humans have independently developed faster-than-light theory?" "Yes," Doctor said simply. "Also quantum communication theory, dark matter manipulation theory, and several approaches to artificial gravity. We have been stuck at the power source problem for about 30 years. Your ships clearly solve this problem. I would like to know how." Myra looked at her team. They looked back at her with expressions of shock. In the entire history of the Galactic Council, no species had developed faster-than-light theory on their own. Every species, without exception, had received this knowledge from the Council. It was considered impossible for a primitive species to figure out such advanced concepts without help. Humans had done it anyway. The assessment continued. Over the next 6 hours, Doctor did something that had never happened before in galactic history. She reverse-engineered the aliens' translation devices. She identified 17 inefficiencies in their propulsion systems. She politely suggested improvements to their medical technology. "Your regeneration pods are impressive," she said, looking at the medical equipment they had brought. "But have you considered using stem cell acceleration instead of molecular reconstruction? It is less energy-intensive." One of the medical analysts, a being with blue skin and no visible mouth, collapsed. He had spent his entire life developing regeneration technology. This human woman had just improved his life's work in 15 minutes. "How do you know about stem cells?" he asked through his translator. "We discovered them about 40 years ago," Doctor said. "We use them for many things, healing injuries, growing organs, treating diseases. They are quite useful." Myra needed a break. She requested an emergency session with the Council. Meanwhile, the rest of the assessment team was having their own problems. Sargent had been assigned as their security escort. He was 30 years old, built like a small mountain, and completely unimpressed by aliens. He had been told to keep the visitors safe and show them around. He took this job seriously, but not too seriously. "Are you hungry?" he asked the analysts. "There is a good restaurant nearby. They have excellent food." The analysts agreed. They were curious about human food. Their research suggested that humans ate organic matter similar to many other species. How different could it be? The restaurant was small and family-owned. Sargent ordered for everyone. "Trust me," he said, "you will like it." The food arrived. It was red, very red, and it smelled like fire. "This is kimchi," Sargent explained. "It is a traditional Korean stew made with fermented vegetables, meat, and spices, very healthy." One of the analysts, a being with sensitive taste receptors, took a small bite. He immediately fell off his chair. The restaurant owner rushed over with water. The analyst's translator was making sounds of distress. His skin had changed from green to bright orange. His body was going through some kind of emergency response. "Is he dying?" Sargent asked, suddenly concerned. "His body is reacting to the capsaicin," another analyst explained. "The chemical that makes your food spicy, it is registering as a biological attack." Sargent looked at the stew. "This is not even very spicy," he said. "This is medium level. My grandmother makes it much stronger." The medical team had to be called. The analyst survived, but barely. The incident would later be included in the official assessment report under the heading, "Warning: Human Food Can Be Dangerous." When the analyst had recovered, Myra asked a question that had been bothering her. "Your species has developed a resistance to chemical compounds that would be lethal to most species in the galaxy. How?" Sargent shrugged. "We just like flavor. Our food is a little spicy. Is that unusual?" Myra checked her records. On a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 was bland and 10 was lethal, most species in the galaxy preferred food around a 2 or 3. Human food regularly reached a 7 or 8. Some human foods went beyond the scale entirely. "You have developed resistance to chemical warfare through your cuisine," she said slowly. "We just call it flavor," Sargent said again. He took a big bite of the stew that had nearly killed his guest. "Do you want to try some soju? It is a traditional drink, very smooth." Myra declined. She had already lost one analyst today. That evening, she sent a preliminary report to the council. It contained several important findings. First, humans were not primitive. They had developed advanced theoretical science on their own without any outside help. This was unprecedented. Second, humans were resilient. Their bodies could survive chemical compounds that would kill most species. Their food was essentially a mild poison that they enjoyed eating. Third, and most importantly, humans were not afraid. They did not treat the council with the reverence that other species showed. They treated them as equals, maybe even as slightly inferior equals. "I have assessed 200 species," Myra wrote in her report. "I have never encountered anything like humans. They should not exist. Their survival contradicts everything we know about how species develop. They are impossible. And yet, here they are." The council read her report. They did not know how to respond. Back on Earth, Doctor had organized a dinner for the assessment team. She had made sure to prepare mild food, nothing spicy, nothing dangerous. Just simple dishes that would not kill anyone. "I hope you are finding Earth interesting," she said to High Observer Myra. Myra looked at this small human woman who had casually improved centuries of council technology in one afternoon. "Interesting is not the word I would use," she said. "What word would you use?" Myra thought about it. In her language, there was a word that meant something between terrifying and fascinating. A word for things that should not exist but demanded attention anyway. "I do not think your language has this word," she finally said. Doctor smiled. "Try me." Myra spoke the word in her native tongue. The translator did its best. The closest translation it could find was "beautifully dangerous." Doctor laughed. "Yes," she said, "I think that describes us quite well." The assessment continued for 3 more months. With each passing day, the analysts discovered something new that shocked them. Humans had survived ice ages without technology. They had survived plagues that killed half their population. They had invented war, almost destroyed themselves, and kept going anyway. They were beautifully dangerous indeed. And the council was beginning to realize that they had found something far more significant than just another species. They had found something that might change the galaxy forever. The Galactic Council demanded to see Earth's complete history. They wanted to understand how this impossible species had developed. They wanted to know everything. They received what they asked for. They were not prepared for it. A special session was called. 942 civilizations sent representatives to watch. This was the largest audience in council history. Everyone wanted to understand the strange new species that had shrugged at first contact and asked about trade deals. The presentation was delivered by Commander Bay of the Korean military. He was 52 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served in peacekeeping missions around the world. He had seen what humans were capable of, both good and bad. He was chosen because he could explain the truth without making excuses. "Thank you for your attention," he began. "I will now show you the history of humanity. I will not hide anything. You asked for the truth. The truth is what you will get." The presentation began. It started 200,000 years ago when the first modern humans appeared in Africa. They were weak. They had no claws, no fangs, no natural weapons. They could not run very fast. They were not very strong. By all logic, they should have died. They did not die. The representatives watched as early humans learned to make tools. They saw humans discover fire. They saw humans spread across the entire planet, adapting to every environment. They survived deserts and jungles and frozen wastelands. They survived by being clever, by working together, and by refusing to give up. Then came the Ice Ages. For tens of thousands of years, Earth was covered in ice. Temperatures dropped to levels that would kill most species. Food became scarce. Many animals went extinct. Humans survived. They wrapped themselves in animal skins. They built shelters. They learned to store food. They kept going. Your species survived multiple ice ages without advanced technology, asked Delegate of the Peaceful Shells. Yes, Commander Bay said. We lost many people, but we never lost hope. The presentation continued. The representatives watched humans develop farming. They watched cities rise. They watched empires grow. Then they watched the First War. The Galactic Council had achieved peace through a simple method. They avoided species that were violent. Any species that showed signs of aggression was quarantined. In extreme cases, they were eliminated from orbit. The galaxy had been peaceful for 3,000 years because the Council did not tolerate violence. Humans had been fighting each other for 10,000 years. The representatives watched in horror as the presentation showed war after war. Swords and spears, guns and cannons, tanks and planes. Each generation, humans found new and more efficient ways to kill each other. How many humans have died in wars? Someone asked. Commander Bay checked his notes. Estimates vary, but the total is probably over 1 billion, maybe more. 1 billion. The number was so large that many translators struggled to process it. Some species had never experienced a single death from violence. The idea of 1 billion violent deaths was beyond their understanding. But the presentation was not done. The Black Death arrived, a disease that swept across the world, killing about half of Europe's population. Entire cities were emptied, bodies piled in the streets. Society nearly collapsed. Humans survived. They buried their dead, mourned their losses, and rebuilt. Within a few generations, the population had recovered. Then came more plagues, more diseases. Each time, humans died in massive numbers. Each time, the survivors kept going. They should have died out, whispered a medical analyst. No species can survive this level of repeated catastrophe. And yet we are still here, Commander Bay said. The presentation reached the modern era. The representatives saw the Industrial Revolution. They saw humans build machines that changed the world. They saw rapid progress in every field. They also saw what humans did with this progress. 2 world wars. The first one killed about 20 million people. The second one killed about 70 million. The representatives watched mushroom clouds rise over Hiroshima and Nagasaki. What was that? Asked High Observer Myra. Nuclear weapons, Commander Bay said. We split the atom. We used the energy to create the most destructive weapon in human history. You split atoms for weapons. First for weapons, later for energy. Commander Bay paused. This is important for you to understand. We did not receive this technology from anyone. We invented it ourselves. In the middle of our largest war, we figured out how to release the energy inside atoms. The Council was silent. Nuclear technology was considered advanced even by galactic standards. Most species received it through trade or gift. Humans had invented it while fighting each other, and they had immediately used it to kill each other. The presentation showed the Cold War. 2 superpowers pointing nuclear weapons at each other, enough bombs to destroy all life on Earth many times over. The Cuban Missile Crisis, the world coming within minutes of complete annihilation. Let me understand, said Delegate slowly. Your species developed weapons capable of ending all life on your planet. You pointed these weapons at each other. You came very close to using them, but you did not. Correct, Commander Bay said. Why not? Commander Bay thought about how to explain. We call it mutually assured destruction. Both sides knew that if they attacked, they would also be destroyed, so neither side attacked. We achieved peace through the fear of total extinction. And you just lived with this. We are still living with it, Commander Bay said. The weapons still exist. but we have also had almost 80 years without a major global conflict. For us, that is progress. The representative from the peaceful shells made a sound that the translator could not process. It might have been shock. It might have been disbelief. It might have been something his species did when they wanted to run away. The final part of the presentation covered what humans had achieved on their own, without any outside help. Nuclear power, space travel, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, medicine that could cure diseases that once killed millions, machines that could think, rockets that could reach other planets. Every other species in the Council had received at least one of these technologies through trade or gift. No species had invented all of them independently. Humans had, while fighting world wars, while surviving pandemics, while arguing about whether pineapple belonged on pizza. "What is pizza?" asked a representative. "Food," Commander Bay said. "We argue about food a lot, more than you argue about weapons. Sometimes." The presentation ended. Commander Bay stood quietly, waiting for questions. The council chamber was silent. Finally, the eldest member spoke. "You have shown us a species that should not exist. You have survived everything. Ice ages, plagues, your own weapons. By all our models, by all our understanding of how life develops, you should be extinct." "We get that a lot," Commander Bay said. "How do you explain your survival?" Commander Bay thought about it. He thought about his grandparents who had survived war and poverty. He thought about his parents who had rebuilt their country from nothing. He thought about his own children who would grow up in a world where aliens were real. "We do not have a good explanation," he finally said. "We just refuse to stop. No matter what happens, no matter how bad things get, some of us always survive, and those survivors always rebuild. It is not logical, it is not efficient, but it is who we are." He looked at the hundreds of representatives watching him. Beings from across the galaxy, many of them older than human civilization itself. "You asked what we offer the galaxy," he said. "Maybe this is it. We survive. We always survive. And maybe, when the galaxy faces something it cannot handle, we can help. Because there is nothing you can throw at us that we have not already thrown at ourselves." The council called an emergency recess. It lasted 3 weeks. During those 3 weeks, the representatives debated what to do about humanity. Some wanted to quarantine Earth immediately. Some wanted to study humans further. Some wanted to offer membership in the council. And some, privately, quietly, wondered if the galaxy had just met a species that might someday lead it. 3 weeks later, the council reached a decision. They would continue the assessment. They would learn more about these impossible creatures who survived everything. They would decide later what to do. But one thing was already clear. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. And humans, as always, simply kept going. Not everyone in the Galactic Council was happy about humanity. After 3 weeks of debate, the representatives were divided. Some believed humans should be welcomed. Others believed they should be contained. The species that had survived everything now faced a new challenge. The galaxy itself was deciding their fate. The collective proposed quarantine. They suggested building a blockade around Earth's solar system. Let the humans develop on their own, keep them away from the rest of the galaxy. It was safer that way. The Dominion suggested guided development. This was a polite way of saying they wanted to control human technology, give them only what the Council approved, limit their growth, make sure they never became a threat. But High Admiral of the combined fleets proposed something simpler. Was an ancient being, one of the oldest warriors in the galaxy. His species had been the military backbone of the Council for 2,000 years. He had fought in wars that most species had forgotten. He had never lost. "We do not need to debate," he said to the Council. "We need to show them their place, a demonstration of force. Let them see what the galaxy can do. They will understand, they will submit, and we can move forward." Many representatives disagreed, but enough supported that his proposal was approved. The demonstration fleet was assembled, 200 warships, each 1 kilometer long. Each ship carried weapons capable of destroying entire continents. Together, they represented the most powerful military force in the galaxy. They arrived in Earth's orbit on a clear morning. On Earth, people looked up and saw the sky filled with massive ships. News channels interrupted their broadcasts. Social media exploded. Governments around the world went to maximum alert. But something strange happened. Instead of panic, humans responded with curiosity. Television ratings went higher than any event in history, higher than the World Cup finals, higher than any war or disaster. Humans gathered in parks and on rooftops, looking up at the alien armada. They were watching, they were waiting, they were not running. General Shin was the commander of Earth's hastily assembled defense force. She was 57 years old, small in height but large in presence. She had spent her career preparing for threats that most people thought would never come. Now the threat was here. "How many ships?" she asked her aide. 200, General. Each one larger than anything we have. "Weapons?" "Enough to destroy Earth several times over." Nodded slowly. She had expected this. After what Commander Bay had shown the Council, she knew some would see humanity as a threat. She had prepared a response. "Open a channel," she said. "Broadcast to the entire fleet." Her message went out to all 200 ships. "This is General Shin, Commander of Earth Defense Forces. Welcome to our solar system. We have prepared a response to your arrival. Please do not be alarmed." On the flagship, High Admiral received the message. He smiled, which for his species involved showing several rows of sharp teeth. He expected the humans to beg, to plead, to offer surrender. "Receive their response," he ordered. But what came was not a weapon. It was not a surrender. It was something completely unexpected. It was a concert. In Seoul, in New York, in Lagos and Mumbai, and humanity performed. Millions of people gathered in public spaces. Musicians played instruments the galaxy had never seen. Guitars and drums and pianos and violins, traditional instruments from every culture on Earth. The broadcast went to every ship in the fleet. It went to every member world of the Council. 17 billion sentient beings across the galaxy watched. They watched humans dance, not the simple movements that most species called dance, but complex, beautiful movements that understanding. Ballet dancers who seemed to float, street dancers who seemed to break the laws of physics, traditional dancers telling stories that were thousands of years old. They watched humans sing, choirs with hundreds of voices singing in perfect harmony, solo performers whose voices carried emotions that translators could not process. Songs in every human language, each one telling a different story. They watched humans create art, painters creating images that made observers feel things they had never felt, sculptors shaping stone and metal into forms that seemed impossible, writers reading words that made 17 species cry, including 4 species that had no tear ducts. The concert lasted for 3 hours. 3 hours of humanity showing what they could create when they were not busy surviving. When it ended, General delivered her actual message. "You have ships that can destroy our cities," she said. "We have weapons that can destroy some of your ships. Not all, but some. We could fight. Some of us would survive. We always do." She paused, letting her words translate across the galaxy. "But we would rather show you what you would be destroying. Every song you heard today took years to learn. Every dance you saw took decades to perfect. Every piece of art you witnessed represented a lifetime of practice and dedication. This is what humanity creates when we are not fighting for survival. This is what we offer the galaxy, not just our ability to survive, our ability to create beauty." She looked directly into the camera. Her eyes were calm but fierce. "Now the choice is yours. You can destroy us. You might even succeed. But you will never find another species that creates like we do. You will never find another species that survives like we do. You will never find another species that burns as brightly as we do. Destroy us, and you destroy something unique in the galaxy, something that will never exist again." She ended the transmission. On his flagship, High Admiral sat in silence. He had commanded fleets for 2 centuries. He had faced enemies that could crack planets. He had never once retreated. His species did not know how to retreat. It was not in their nature. But he also understood what he had just witnessed. The humans had not begged. They had not pleaded. They had not offered surrender. They had shown him what they would lose. And more importantly, they had shown him what the galaxy would lose. He thought about the concert, about the music that had made his crew stop working to listen, about the dances that had made his tactical officers forget about their weapons, about the art that had made even him, a warrior who had seen everything, feel something he had not felt in centuries. "Wonder, High Admiral," his first officer said, "your orders." Looked at his fleet, 200 ships ready to destroy a planet, ready to end a species that created beauty even while facing death. "Stand down," he said quietly. "Sir." "Stand down," repeated. "All ships hold position, do not fire." His first officer stared at him. "Sir, with respect, the Council authorized this demonstration." "The demonstration is over," said. "The humans have given their response." He opened a channel to the Council. 17 billion beings watched him, waiting for his report. "These creatures do not threaten us with destruction," he said slowly. "They threaten us with meaning. They threaten us with beauty. They threaten us with a purpose that I cannot define but cannot ignore." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "I have fought many enemies in my centuries of service. I know how to fight those who want to kill. I do not know how to fight those who want to create. I do not know how to fight those who answer weapons with music. My recommendation is as follows: do not attack Earth. Do not quarantine Earth. Invite them to join us, because if we destroy them, we will regret it for the rest of our existence. And if we try to contain them, we will fail. They have already shown us that they cannot be contained. They survived ice ages. They survived plagues. They survived their own weapons. They will survive us too. The only question is whether we want them as friends or enemies. And after what I have seen today, I know which choice I would make." He ended his transmission. The Council debated for another 3 days, but the outcome was already clear. The fleet returned home. Earth was not destroyed. Humanity was not contained. And somewhere on Earth, General Shin allowed herself a small smile. "Did it work?" her aide asked. "It worked," she said. "They expected us to fight. We showed them something better." She looked at the reports coming in from around the world. The concert had been watched by almost everyone on Earth. People were still celebrating in the streets. Musicians were still playing. Artists were still creating. "This is who we are," she said quietly. "We survive, we fight when we must, but what we really do, what we are best at, is creating, and now the galaxy knows it." The test was over. Humanity had passed. 1 year had passed since first contact. In that time, everything had changed, and nothing had changed. The Galactic Council had debated, argued, and eventually voted. The question was simple: should Earth be granted membership? The answer was not. 43 species abstained. They were not sure what to think about humans. They needed more time. 12 species voted against. They were afraid of what humans could do, afraid of what humans represented. But the majority voted yes. Earth would join the Galactic Council. The ceremony was held on the Council, a massive space station at the center of the galaxy. Representatives from all 942 civilizations gathered to witness the member take their place. Ambassador Park stood at the podium. She was the same captain who had told the first contact vessel to wait while she finished her lunch. Now she was Earth's first galactic ambassador. She had come a long way. But she had not changed. She was still calm, still practical, still unimpressed by things that impressed everyone else. She spoke of gratitude. She thanked the Council for their welcome. She thanked the species who had voted yes. She even thanked those who had voted no, because their doubts would keep humanity humble. She spoke of hope. She talked about the future, about what humans could learn from the galaxy, about what humans could share with the galaxy, about the endless possibilities that lay ahead. And then she said something that would be remembered for. "You came to Earth expecting to find children," she said. "Young, primitive beings waiting to be taught. You expected us to be grateful for your attention. You expected us to follow your rules without question." She paused, looking at the assembled representatives. "Instead, you found survivors." The word echoed through the chamber. Survivors, such a simple word, but it meant so much. "We have survived everything our planet could throw at us. Ice ages that lasted thousands of years, plagues that killed half our population, disasters that destroyed entire civilizations. We have survived everything we could throw at each other. Wars that killed millions, weapons that could end all life on Earth, hatred and prejudice and cruelty that should have torn us apart. And now, we will survive the galaxy too. Her voice was steady, not aggressive, not threatening, just stating facts. Not through conquest, we have no interest in conquering you. Not through fear, we do not want you to fear us. Through the simple fact that we refuse to stop. She let her words translate across 900 languages. You asked why we were not afraid when your ships first arrived, why we did not panic, why we did not beg or plead or run. The answer is simple. We have already faced extinction. Several times, from ice ages to asteroids to our own weapons, and every single time we chose to live, not just to survive, to live, to love and create and hope and dream, even when logic said we should not. That is what humanity offers the galaxy. Not technology, not resources, not military might. We offer persistence. We offer the stubborn, irrational, beautiful refusal to give up. She smiled slightly. The same smile she had given Ambassador Telos on the day of first contact. So welcome us to your council. Teach us your ways, share your stars. But understand this, we have already proven 1,000 times over that we cannot be stopped. Not by nature, not by ourselves, and certainly not by you. The chamber was silent. Ambassador looked at the hundreds of faces watching her. Some were shocked, some were afraid, some were something that might have been respect. We are humanity, she said, and we are just getting started. She stepped back from the podium. For a long moment, nothing happened. The silence stretched on. 942 civilizations waited, not knowing how to respond. Then slowly, one representative stood up. It was High Admiral, the warrior who had brought a fleet to Earth and left without firing a shot. He raised one of his forearms in a gesture of respect. Another representative stood, then another, then another. One by one, 942 civilizations rose. They stood for a species they had dismissed as primitive just 1 year before. They stood for a species that had answered weapons with music. They stood for a species that refused to die. The standing ovation lasted for 10 minutes. In the gallery, Doctor watched with tears in her eyes. Beside her sat Dr. Lee, her husband of 15 years. He was a historian who had spent the past year teaching aliens about human culture. They had met at university, married in their 30s, and never expected their lives to lead here. Think they finally understand us? Asked, wiped her eyes and smiled. Not yet, but they are starting to. It will take time. We have time. We always have time. That is what being a survivor means. She took his hand and squeezed it. Below them, Ambassador was shaking hands with representatives from across the galaxy, making connections, building relationships, beginning the long process of integration. There would be challenges ahead. Not everyone would accept humanity. Not everyone would trust them. Some would try to use them. Some would try to stop them. The galaxy was a complicated place, but humanity had faced complicated before, and they had survived. Back on Earth, life continued as it always had. Lieutenant, recently promoted from sergeant, watched the ceremony on his phone. He was in his grandmother's kitchen, waiting for her homemade kimchi to finish fermenting. The red pepper paste gleamed in the evening light. The smell filled the room. His grandmother was 87 years old. She had survived a war, a dictatorship, and the complete transformation of her country from poverty to prosperity. She had seen more change in her lifetime than most species saw in centuries. She was completely unimpressed by galactic politics. "What is all the fuss about?" she asked, shuffling into the kitchen. Looked up from his phone. On the screen, Ambassador was accepting a medal of some kind. The crowd was still cheering. "The aliens finally realized we are not going anywhere, grandmother," he said. She snorted. "Took them long enough. Smart as they think they are, and it took them a whole year to figure that out. They had to learn. Everyone has to learn." She looked at the kimchi, checking its progress. "Now stop watching television and help me with the radishes. They will not cut themselves." Smiled. He put down his phone. The ceremony would continue without him. History would be made. The galaxy would change forever. But his grandmother's kimchi would not wait. Some things were more important than galactic politics. Some things never changed, even when everything else did. The love of family, the comfort of home cooking, the simple joy of doing ordinary things on an extraordinary day. He picked up a knife and started cutting radishes. You know, his grandmother said, watching him work, I never thought I would live to see this. Aliens, real aliens coming to Earth. Are you surprised? She thought about it. No, not really. I always knew there was more out there. The universe is too big to be empty. I just thought they would have better manners. Laughed. Better manners? Showing up without calling first. Bringing a fleet without an invitation. Very rude. She shook her head. At least they learned. Your ambassador taught them proper behavior. She is good at that. She reminds me of my grandmother, his grandmother said. Tough, practical, does not care what anyone thinks. That is a good quality. That is what helped us survive. She looked at her grandson, pride in her old eyes. We are survivors. That is what we are. That is what we have always been. The aliens will learn this. Everyone learns eventually. Outside, the stars were beginning to appear in the evening sky. Somewhere among them, a ceremony was concluding. History was being made. The galaxy was changing. Inside, an old woman and her grandson made kimchi. The galaxy had found Earth. Earth was not impressed. And somewhere in Seoul, kimchi still needed to be made. That was humanity, surviving, creating, continuing, no matter what. Always.